Lily Parker had always been a dreamer. From the moment she could remember, she had imagined herself walking across a college campus, carrying a backpack filled with books, notebooks, and the kind of hope that made her chest feel tight and full at the same time. College was not just a dream, it was a promise she had made to herself. Every penny she had saved, every scholarship application she had written, every hour she had spent studying was a step closer to that promise. It was her ticket to a future where she could breathe freely, away from the small tensions and shadows that sometimes lingered in her home. Her family had always been close, at least on the surface. John Parker, her father, was a tall, quiet man who spoke in measured tones, never one to raise his voice, but whose disappointment could be felt even in silence. Linda Parker, her mother, was soft-spoken and kind, always ready with a gentle smile or a cup of tea, but Lily often sensed that her mother's kindness sometimes hid a deep fear of conflict. And then there was Max, her younger brother, whose easy laugh could fill a room but who had a way of getting into trouble that made Lily's stomach tighten. It was late summer, and the air in their small suburban home carried the scent of cut grass and lingering warmth. Lily sat at the kitchen table, her laptop open in front of her, reviewing scholarship offers once again. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitating, because she didn't want to believe it could be real, that this opportunity was hers and hers alone. Her heart raced every time she thought about leaving home, stepping into a life where she could make her own choices, where her efforts would finally be rewarded. But life, as she was learning, had a way of twisting hope into uncertainty. Max burst into the kitchen without knocking, a grin on his face and a crumpled piece of paper in his hand. "Guess what?" he said, his voice loud and casual, too casual for the tension Lily felt building in her chest. "What is it?" Lily asked, trying to keep her voice steady, but a flicker of unease ran through her. "I won big at the arcade last night," he said, waving the paper like it was a trophy. "You won't believe how much I got." Lily forced a smile, but her mind began to spin. The last time Max had won big, the story had ended in angry phone calls and whispered arguments in the living room late at night. She glanced at her father, who was reading the newspaper with his usual calm expression, but the slight tightening of his jaw did not escape her. "Max, be careful," she said softly. "Remember last time, things didn't go so well." "Oh, come on, Lily. It's different this time," Max said with a wave. "I've got it under control." But Lily didn't believe him. She had learned over the years that Max's confidence often masked carelessness, and carelessness could turn into disaster fast. Her stomach churned with worry, but she pushed it aside, trying to focus on her college plans. She had worked too hard to let anything, especially Max's reckless habits, distract her. That night, as the Parker family gathered for dinner, the house seemed quieter than usual. Lily noticed her father's hands shaking slightly as he poured his coffee, a subtle sign of stress he tried to hide. Linda kept glancing at him, her lips pressed together, the way she did when she was trying to stop herself from saying something she knew would make everything worse. "I've been meaning to talk to you both," John said finally, breaking the silence. His voice was low, hesitant, and it carried a weight that made Lily's stomach drop. "About the college fund." Lily froze. Her fork hovered above her plate. A cold wave of dread washed over her. She had always imagined this conversation going differently, her parents celebrating her hard work, maybe even surprising her with a small gift to start college life. But the tone in her father's voice told her that reality had other plans. Linda reached across the table, placing her hand lightly over John's. "We need to be honest with Lily," she said. Her voice was soft, almost apologetic, but it carried an unshakable firmness that Lily didn't like. John sighed and looked at Lily with eyes that she had always trusted, but now seemed distant, almost heavy with guilt. "Lily, the money you've saved for college. I had to use it. Max, he owes some people, and it's serious. I didn't see another way." Lily felt the air leave her lungs. Her mind spun, trying to process his words. "What do you mean you used it?" she asked, her voice trembling. "My college fund, for Max." "Yes," her father said quietly. "I'm sorry." Lily's heart pounded. Anger, disbelief, and hurt all collided inside her. She couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. How could her dreams, everything she had worked for, be handed over to cover someone else's mistakes? She wanted to cry, to scream, to shake her parents until they understood how much this hurt. But instead, she just sat there, frozen, as the room seemed to close in around her. Max looked at her, eyes wide, trying to offer a smile that didn't reach his face. "It's okay, Lily. Mom and Dad said it's fine. I'll make it up." But Lily couldn't hear him. All she could hear was the shattering sound of a future she had imagined so clearly, slipping through her fingers. The next morning, Lily woke up with a heavy feeling in her chest. Sleep had barely touched her, leaving her tangled in dreams of college campuses that now felt unreachable. She went straight to her laptop, hoping to revisit her scholarship accounts and reassure herself that maybe, just maybe, the news from last night had been a mistake. But when she logged in, her heart sank even further. The numbers were gone, vanished completely. Every penny she had painstakingly saved for tuition, books, and dorm fees was gone. She stared at the screen, unable to breathe, her hands trembling as she scrolled through transaction histories she had memorized. It wasn't a mistake. She dropped into her chair, pressing her forehead against her palm. The world seemed to tilt, everything spinning in slow motion. How could her father have done this? Her dreams, the future she had built in her mind, had been quietly swept away while she slept. She remembered last night's dinner, the calm apology in her father's voice, and her mother's quiet support of Maximum. But hearing it wasn't the same as seeing the evidence. The reality hit her now, cold and sharp, cutting through her like ice. "What am I supposed to do?" she whispered to the empty room, her voice cracking. She wanted to call Max, to yell at him, but even imagining speaking to him made her chest tighten. His mischievous grin from last night's arcade win now felt like a cruel mockery. Her thoughts raced. Every late-night studying, every extra shift at her part-time job, every sacrifice she had made suddenly felt meaningless. She felt betrayed not just by her parents, but by the world she thought she understood. She had always believed her family loved her, valued her efforts, but now it felt as though all of that love was conditional, based on who needed the most in that moment. She tried to reach her father in the living room. "Dad," she called, her voice shaking. "Why? How could you? Why would you take my money for Max?" John Parker looked up from the newspaper, his face drawn and tired. "Lily, I didn't see any other way. He was in trouble, and the people he owed, they weren't the kind you can ignore." Lily's throat tightened. "So my dreams, they don't matter." John opened his mouth but didn't answer, his silence speaking louder than any words could. Her mother, Linda, entered the room, her expression gentle but firm. "Lily, it's not that your dreams don't matter. But Max, he needs help now. He's your brother. Needs help." Lily's voice broke. "He gambled, Mom. He made his own choices. And you just took everything I worked for? Everything I saved for years." Linda's eyes softened, but she didn't waver. "Sometimes we have to make hard choices, Lily. I know it's not fair, but we did what we thought was right." Lily felt a hot tear escape down her cheek. She couldn't understand it. How could her parents choose Max over her so easily? Every warning, every lesson about responsibility she had tried to teach him seemed meaningless. He had taken her trust, her money, and her future, and now the people who were supposed to protect her were defending him. She left the house, walking through the neighborhood in a daze. The sun was bright, but it did nothing to lift the shadow that had settled over her. Every house she passed seemed ordinary, happy, untouched by betrayal, but her home, the place that had always been her safe space, now felt like a trap. Her mind raced through every possible solution, each one more impossible than the last. Could she ask extended family for help? Could she take out loans? Could she work double shifts and somehow make up for what was gone? The answers all seemed distant, unreachable, and unfairly heavy for someone so young. By the time she returned home, Lily's resolve began to harden. Tears still stung her eyes, but beneath them grew a small flame of determination. She wasn't going to let this destroy her. Not completely. Max had made his mistakes, her parents had made theirs, but she would find a way. Somehow, she would find a way to hold on to her dreams, even if it meant walking a much harder path than she had ever imagined. But for now, the pain was sharp, the betrayal fresh, and the weight of the reality she faced pressed heavily on her small shoulders. She had discovered not just the loss of money, but the fragility of trust, and the bitter truth that sometimes the people you love most can make choices that hurt you in ways you never expected. That evening, the house felt smaller, heavier, as if the walls themselves were pressing in on Lily. She had tried to hold back her anger all day, but every time she saw Max laughing or joking around, she felt a flash of fury she couldn't control. She needed answers. She needed her parents to understand just how much they had taken from her. She found her mother in the kitchen, drying dishes, her movements slow and methodical. "Mom," Lily began, her voice trembling but firm, "I can't just let this go. You and Dad took my college fund for maximum. How is that fair?" Linda looked up, startled, but her expression quickly shifted to calm reassurance. "Lily, I know you're upset, but Max really needed help. You know he's been in trouble before, and this time it was serious." "Serious?" Lily's voice cracked. "Max gambled away thousands. And you chose him over me. Over everything I've worked for." Her hands shook, and her chest felt tight as if it might collapse under the weight of her words. Her mother sighed, placing a hand on the counter. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I know it's hard to understand. But sometimes we have to make hard choices for the family. Max is your brother, and he needed this more than you did right now." Lily shook her head, unable to believe the words. "More than me? Mom. I've been saving, working, planning my entire future, and all of it, gone. And you think that's okay?" Linda didn't answer immediately. She seemed to struggle, as if searching for the right words. "It's not about being okay, Lily. It's about survival. Max needed help, and we had to do what was necessary." Lily felt tears burn behind her eyes. "Survival? My survival matters too. You always say you love me, but love doesn't feel like this. Love shouldn't hurt this much." Her mother's eyes softened, but her voice remained firm. "I know it hurts, Lily. But sometimes love means making sacrifices, even when it's painful." That was when John entered the kitchen, his expression heavy with guilt. "Lily, I didn't want it to be this way. I thought I was doing the right thing for Maximum. I didn't mean to hurt you." Lily turned to him, fury and disbelief mingling. "You didn't mean to hurt me? Dad, you stole my future. You took my college fund. How can you say you didn't mean to hurt me?" John looked down, silent. He opened his mouth to speak but closed it again, unable to offer the comfort or solution Lily craved. Max wandered into the room, sensing the tension but unsure what to do. "Lily. I'm sorry," he mumbled, looking away. "I didn't ask for it to happen like this." "Sorry doesn't fix it, Max." Lily snapped. "Sorry doesn't pay for tuition or textbooks. Sorry doesn't make up for years of saving and working. I trusted you all, and this is how you repay me." Her mother set the dish towel down and walked over, placing a hand gently on Lily's shoulder. "Lily, I know you feel betrayed. I know it feels unfair. But we did what we thought was right. Sometimes family comes first, even when it hurts." Lily pulled away, shaking her head. "Family first? That's not family. That's favoritism. That's taking what's mine and giving it to someone else because you think they need it more." The room fell silent. Even Max didn't speak. John's jaw was tight, his hands gripping the edge of the counter. He wanted to defend himself, to explain why he made the choice, but Lily's anger and pain had swallowed the air, leaving nothing but tension. Finally, Lily turned and walked toward her room. Her heart was pounding, and tears were streaming down her face. She wanted to scream, to break something, to shake her parents until they understood. But instead, she slammed the door behind her, leaving the kitchen and the argument behind. She sank onto her bed, wrapping her arms around her knees. Every word they had said echoed in her mind. He needs it more, family comes first, sacrifices for survival. Each phrase felt like a knife twisting in her chest. And yet, beneath the hurt, a small spark of defiance began to grow. Lily realized that yelling or pleading wouldn't bring her money back. It wouldn't fix what had been taken. The confrontation had made one thing painfully clear: she could no longer rely on anyone else to protect her dreams. She would have to fight for them herself. Her anger softened slightly, replaced by a tense determination. She wiped her tears and sat up straight, her mind already racing through options, plans, possibilities. Max may have lost her trust, and her parents may have chosen him over her, but Lily knew one thing for certain: she wasn't going to give up on herself. Not now. Not ever. For the first time that evening, a glimmer of clarity broke through the storm of hurt. She didn't know how, or when, but she would find a way. Her dreams were still hers, and she would fight to make them real, no matter how hard the road became. After the confrontation in the kitchen, Lily lay on her bed for hours, staring at the ceiling. The sunlight slipped through the blinds, casting stripes of gold across her room, but it did nothing to warm the cold ache in her chest. Her mind raced, spinning over and over the events of the past 24 hours. She felt trapped between anger and despair, and the weight of betrayal pressed down so hard that it felt as if she might suffocate. She thought about her college fund, every single dollar she had saved since her first part-time job in high school. The hours she had spent tutoring, the weekends she had given up to babysit neighbors' kids, the careful budgeting and sacrifices all gone. And now her parents had given it to Max, someone who had made careless choices, someone who hadn't worked for a single cent. The injustice of it burned deep inside her, hotter and sharper with every heartbeat. Lily tried to calm herself, closing her eyes, willing the tears to stop, but her mind refused to quiet down. She pictured Max grinning with her money, imagining him spending it carelessly, laughing while her dreams slipped further out of reach. The thought made her chest tighten and her stomach churn. How could they prioritize him over her? Over everything she had built with sweat and determination? She reached for her notebook, the one she used to write down her goals, her plans, and sometimes, her fears. With a trembling hand, she began to scribble, her thoughts pouring out in messy, hurried handwriting. Each word was a release, but it also reminded her of the harsh reality. Her path was blocked, and she didn't know how to clear it. Her emotions were a storm. One moment, she wanted to scream and throw everything in her room across the floor. The next, she wanted to curl into a ball and disappear, to escape the pain that no one seemed to understand. She felt invisible, as though her efforts and dreams had been erased. She had always believed that family meant support, that love meant protecting one another, but now those beliefs felt fragile, like glass shattering beneath her fingertips. She remembered the quiet moments she had shared with her father before this all happened, the rare times he had smiled proudly at her accomplishments. And now, those memories were tainted, overshadowed by the reality that he had chosen Max over her. Her mother's soft voice, which once comforted her, now seemed like a reminder that kindness could also betray. Anger mingled with guilt. She wondered if she had done something wrong, if she had somehow failed as a sister or a daughter. Could she have been more understanding, more patient? But the thought felt absurd. She had done everything right, worked harder than most people her age, and still, her future had been compromised. In the quiet of her room, Lily allowed herself to be honest with her pain. She cried, not just for the money, but for the trust that had been broken, for the sense of security that had disappeared overnight. Her sobs echoed softly against the walls, a release she had held back for too long. It was the kind of crying that left her feeling empty, raw, and yet strangely awake, as if a part of her was finally seeing the truth clearly. And amid the heartbreak, a small spark of defiance began to grow. Lily realized that no one would fight for her dreams the way she could. Max might have taken her money, and her parents might have sided with him, but she could not allow their choices to define her. She had to find another way, a way to reclaim her future and prove to herself that her hard work still meant something. She wiped her tears and opened her laptop, scanning scholarship opportunities she had never considered before, searching for any possible ways to recover what had been lost. Every application, every click, felt like a small rebellion against the injustice she had endured. Even though fear and uncertainty still clawed at her, determination began to thread through the pain, steadying her. For the first time since she had discovered the loss, Lily allowed herself to imagine a path forward. It wasn't the one she had planned, and it would be much harder, but it existed. And she clung to it like a lifeline, her heart heavy but beating with the stubborn hope that she could and would rise above this. After a restless night filled with tossing and turning, Lily woke with a quiet resolve she hadn't felt before. The pain of losing her college fund was still sharp, but it no longer paralyzed her. She knew she couldn't rely on her parents or Max to fix things. If she wanted her dreams to survive, she would have to fight for them herself. She started by making a list. Scholarships she had missed, competitions she could enter, local programs that offered financial aid, and part-time jobs she could take to make up the lost money. Her fingers trembled slightly as she wrote, but there was a fire in her chest that made each word feel purposeful. The next morning, she approached her father again, this time with calm determination. "Dad," she said, her voice steady, "I need to find a way to replace my college fund. Can you help me figure out what's left or where I can start?" John Parker looked at her, surprised by her composure. He opened his mouth to speak but realized he couldn't undo what had been done. I can't give you the money back, Lily," he said softly. "But I can help you figure out other options." That small support, though limited, gave Lily hope. She spent hours at her desk, researching scholarships, typing out applications, and contacting local organizations. Every rejection email stung, every application unanswered added to the weight on her shoulders, but she refused to stop. This was her life, her future, and she would not allow it to be stolen. She even reached out to extended family members she hadn't spoken to in years. Some were hesitant, some could offer only small contributions, but each bit of help felt like a step closer to reclaiming what was hers. Lily learned quickly how to advocate for herself, how to explain her situation clearly and honestly, and how to refuse to feel guilty for asking for help. At school, she doubled down on her efforts. She tutored classmates, took extra shifts at her part-time job, and managed her time with almost military precision. Every late night, every tired morning, every extra effort felt like a brick laid in the foundation of her reclaimed future. And through it all, Max was there too, a constant reminder of what had been lost. He tried to apologize, tried to make amends in small ways, but Lily kept her distance. She didn't want to punish him, but she couldn't let his mistakes derail her determination again. She began to set boundaries, learning that love and forgiveness didn't mean sacrificing herself. There were moments when exhaustion threatened to swallow her whole. Moments when the unfairness of it all made her want to give up. But Lily held on to her vision, her first day at college, walking through the campus, the sense of possibility and freedom she had always craved. That vision became her anchor, pulling her through the hardest days. Slowly, gradually, her plan began to take shape. Scholarships began to trickle in, part-time jobs brought in extra funds, and small contributions from family made the impossible seem a little less unreachable. Lily realized that even though the path was harder and longer than she had imagined, she was capable of creating her own way forward. Most importantly, she learned something she hadn't known before: her dreams were hers to fight for, and no one, neither her brother nor her parents, could take away her strength, determination, or spirit. She was building more than a college fund now. She was building resilience, courage, and the confidence to face any obstacle. By the end of the month, Lily sat at her desk, surrounded by paperwork, applications, and a small stack of scholarship letters. She smiled, tired but proud. The road ahead was still long, and it wouldn't be easy, but she had taken the first step. She had faced the betrayal, faced the unfairness, and refused to let it define her. And in that moment, Lily realized that sometimes, losing everything you thought you had is the beginning of discovering how much you are truly capable of. By the time fall arrived, Lily Parker had transformed in ways even she hadn't expected. The weight of betrayal and loss still lingered, but it no longer held her down. She had worked tirelessly, applied to countless scholarships, taken on extra jobs, and reached out to anyone who might help. Slowly, piece by piece, she had rebuilt enough of her college fund to make attending school a reality. The first day of college was surreal. Standing outside the campus gates, her backpack heavy on her shoulders, Lily felt a mixture of relief, pride, and cautious hope. She had fought her way through uncertainty, heartbreak, and family conflict to arrive here. She knew the road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time, she truly believed she could handle whatever came next. Her parents had apologized, quietly and imperfectly, acknowledging the hurt their choices had caused. John looked at her with a mixture of guilt and pride. "I wish I could have done things differently," he said. "But I'm proud of how strong you've become." Linda's eyes glistened as she spoke softly. "I know it wasn't fair, Lily. I hope you can forgive us someday. And I hope you know how much we love you. Lily nodded, letting the words sink in. Forgiveness wouldn't be immediate, but acceptance had begun. She realized that while she couldn't change the past, she could shape her future. The love she felt for her family was complicated, tangled with disappointment and hurt, but it didn't have to stop her from moving forward. Max approached her with hesitant steps. Lily, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to ruin your plans. His voice was quiet, and his eyes looked genuinely remorseful. Lily studied him for a long moment. Part of her wanted to lash out, to let him feel the weight of what he had taken. But another part of her, the part that had fought so hard to reclaim her dreams, knew that holding on to anger wouldn't help anyone. I know, Max, she said finally. I'm still upset, but I'm moving forward. You'll need to fix your own mistakes too. And with that, Lily stepped onto campus, her heart full of cautious hope and fierce determination. Every lecture she attended, every assignment she completed, and every new friend she made became a testament to her resilience. She carried with her the lessons she had learned, that life could be unfair, that people you love could hurt you, but that nothing could stop her from fighting for herself. In quiet moments, she reflected on the journey. Losing her college fund had been devastating, but it had also taught her something invaluable: the power of perseverance, the strength of self-reliance, and the importance of setting boundaries even with those closest to you. She had discovered that setbacks, no matter how painful, could ignite courage she didn't know she possessed. By the end of her first semester, Lily was not just surviving, she was thriving. She had proven to herself that she could face disappointment and betrayal and still rise. Her dreams were no longer fragile plans dependent on others, they were goals she had claimed through grit, effort, and unwavering belief in herself. Looking out over the campus from her dorm room window, Lily smiled softly. The future was still uncertain, but it no longer felt impossible. She had learned that life could take from you, but it could never take away your determination to fight for what mattered most. And for Lily Parker, that was enough.